Is life a perception based on perspective, or is perspective based on perceptions?
Have you completely lost it?
No, wait, it's just perceptions.
Isn't life just like a box of paints, full of colorful people, events, and
Arey no, it's just black and white, like binary.
Dude, for people like us and all, there are only two options in life. So engineering or medicine.
Bro, come on. There's a whole lot more to life than just that. You're just looking at it from the wrong perspective.
That's completely anti-national. How can you say that? I mean, how can you not be patriotic?
I don't believe in such ideas, to be honest. The notion of a country itself is just this perception that is implanted in our minds.
Children, life is just like a balance sheet. You must balance things out to give rise to that final statement, just as a balance sheet declares a final statement.
Has she gone mad?
No, dude. Think about it.
Perspections. Life through perspectives and perceptions.
Episode 6 Observing and Absorbing with Krishna Rao.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. On today's episode, I have someone who I really wanted to get on the show the minute I started. And reaching out and getting to this person was actually the toughest part. Today's episode has someone who I am very fond of and who is someone who's really inspired me to not only live my life better but to look at it in a different way. He's an Inme instructor and he was a campus chief for 2 of the camps that I went on. I spent a lot of time with him and learned a lot. Without further ado, I'd like to bring on Inme instructor and amazing person, Krishna Rao.
Hi Veer, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. It's a great honor.
Oh, I can't believe you're saying that. So I just wanted to start off with this. You've been an instructor for how many? 10 plus years now?
Yeah, this is my 8th year.
Oh, okay.
8th year with Inme and similar companies. So not exactly 10, but I'm pretty sure I'll continue working in this field, so it'll be 10 very soon.
What pushes you to keep on doing this? Is it that being able to learn from those around you, the children and the other instructors, or what exactly is it?
That is part of the answer. I do definitely end up learning quite a bit from people around me because people around me, they're always changing. Not just the people themselves who are changing, but even the same people who turn up time and again, they are changing themselves in their lives and there is a lot to learn from them. You know, the whole world is becoming better, at least that's the outlook I have. And I do see it happening amongst the ones who come time and again and the ones who come for the first time. So there is a lot to learn from the people who come to the camps, and that's one of the reasons what keeps me going. Another one is just the fact that being out in the sun, walking around a lot, climbing the occasional rock when I can, doing a lot of biking, getting into waters, or being one among children. And children have a lot of energy. I can't keep up with them. And if I have to keep up with them, I have to change my behavior. And all of this put together is what keeps me going back to the workplace. I like it a lot.
So you just said change your behavior. I mean, do you adapt to the way the children are around you, or do you try and fit in? In what sort of way do you do that?
I can't surely say that I adapt 100% because there is a certain part of me which remains constant. I can't really change that. It's very hard to point out exactly what this part of me is, but I would call it a base character. Something that makes me who I am in a very peculiar, specific way. At the same time, everything around that is flexible. Sometimes kids come with a certain set of expectations. So being in the role that I am in, usually, I have to form myself according to the time and space that the kids require. So there is a bit of adaptation and there is a bit of constant that goes on in my personality, if I may say that.
So how are you able to change and adapt so quickly based on a single person or a single group of children?
This is a hard question to answer. I think it has multiple facets to it. First thing is to question, observe, see and understand who the kid in question, if it's a single person or the group, who they are, where they come from, what their needs are. For example, when you came in, you as an individual showed interest from a psychological standpoint. You showed the sense of being earnest, wanting to do a lot of work and finishing up the tasks every day, the need to have direction, structure, and after that, the need to have randomness also. You exhibited all of this by showing a certain few behaviors. Maybe you showed leadership, maybe you showed initiative, and it's easy to see all this if one is keeping their eyes open and if they connect the dots. Okay, Veer was the one who raised his hand up yesterday, or Veer was the one who picked up that heavy box and was transferring it up and down to the truck time and again, or Veer was the one who was awake in the morning and was washing utensils. So when you show such behaviors, it means you want such behaviors in your life more and more, and you want avenues to show such behaviors more and more. If I take it away from you, if I say, okay, Veer, you don't have to do so much. Relax, sit down on the side and let me handle it for you, because you've paid the money, you've come here as a client, and it's my duty to do it. I'm taking that avenue away from you. So I need to be flexible and step aside from my role of a supposed expedition leader and allow you to take it forward. So that's from a psychological, attitude point of view. You may also come with the expectation that you want more of a physical challenge where you want to exert your body more and more as much as you can. And you may come with a history of sporting excellence. It is easily readable if one sees a person's body language, like yours, for example, since we are on your topic, taking you as an example, your body language shows that of a person who has some kind of a sport history. It shows that you have used your body from since childhood, doing one thing or another. It might be climbing trees, or it might be an official formal sport like basketball. So what can be done to give you more of a challenge? What can be done so that my personality, my decision making affects you in a positive way, so that I can be flexible and give you an option to push you forward? Easy, observe that you are from a sporting background and give you more challenge in every facet from morning till evening. So in answering your question, first step would be to observe and understand. Part of it is our expectation sessions that we do in the beginning of every program, asking the team of students, what are you here for? The answer usually is a simple answer. I am here for the biking expedition. And okay, cool. But what kind of expedition do you need? Do you want an expedition where we take over everything and do everything for you and you're just a client sailing through the experience of the expedition? Or you want to take the reins in your hands and do everything by yourself? So that's when people open up, and the important thing to be doing at that time is to keep the ears open and note down. I think that's mostly it.
I mean, also, one of the instructors that I've seen that is flexible in the sense that they're able to change the way they are with children. I mean, you can be a very serious person and you can also be the funniest person on camp. Is that something that you have done ever since you were a child, being able to adapt very easily? Is it because of your background or something like that?
All of this, whatever I am doing right now, is learned behavior. That means it's based on long-term observation and social adaptation, trying to change the person I am to fit the surroundings. One thing that helped greatly was observing different styles of behavior, but I was limited with the choices of people that I could observe, because in the beginning at home it's just parents that you can observe.
Correct. Yeah.
And parents have a limited set of behaviors that they display. So how do I get a huge list of different behaviors that one can observe and imbibe? The answer, thankfully, I came across was in books. A lot of fiction was what I read when I was younger. In these fiction books, there were characters, protagonists, antagonists, and all of that, and they would show a host of behaviors, some of which can be picked up and imbibed in life, some of which can be picked up and observed in others. You don't want to imbibe everything. Not all behaviors are good, but you still want to be able to observe all behavior. So books helped a lot. That is number one. And second, the job itself involves a huge turnover of people. Around 1,000 to 1,500 people is how many that I encounter every year.
Wow.
As clients, as
Wow.
students. And think about it, Veer. Each person, each kid, at least as intelligent and varied as you, they'll have their own history, right?
Yes.
They're just the way you have your history, and it oozes out of them. And that gives a great sample of people to understand and observe, and that itself helped me a lot. Just doing the job and keeping my eyes open. So I wasn't like this right from the beginning. I can't claim that at all. Kids have helped me giving that huge sample of people.
Is that why you went into this job? Observe more, to see more, to understand more about humans in general?
Not really. I did. My intentions were not as noble when I went into this job. To be raw and pure and honest, I went into this job because I wasn't really educated in any other sphere, and I wouldn't get a job in any other place, right? If I don't have the qualification. But I did have some qualification to get into this field, and the rawest part, the most basic reasoning of them all, money.
Of course.
I wanted to earn money, so I got into this job. But the perks kept me going.
Yeah. I think, from our conversations at camp, it was never about money for you. I guess it was more about the experience of interacting and meeting new people.
Yes, our conversations were more about the grander purpose of things. It was not so noble in the beginning. I don't want to give you or your listeners a wrong idea that I've always had noble intentions. No, that's not true. I got in for the money. There is something called Maslow's needs hierarchy. A great thinker named Maslow has come up with a triangle, and it describes that every human being has to go through from the base of the triangle and eventually to the top. The whole triangle is split into small parts. The base of the triangle is the first one that you would construct if you were constructing a pyramid. The base of the pyramid is the first one. And the base has basic needs like food and shelter, survival. And then second one comes your social needs. Third one comes your intellectual needs. Fourth one is your self-actualization. So every human has to go through this particular triangle from the bottom and eventually reach the top. A person who's hungry all the time and out in the streets has no use for some kind of a literature novel with intellectual thinking, right?
Yeah.
The first thing that person needs is food and shelter and safety. So when I started with this job, the first thing that I was focusing upon was something as simple as let me get my own money and food, and then let me think of grander things.
Correct.
But when I met you, it was already around 6 years after I got the job, and I was pretty well sorted in my life. And that is when such higher levels of thinking had come into place. So both exist at the same time.
Okay, makes sense. Moving on, let's just talk about the fasting. So on Krishna's Instagram page, he posted a series of videos of the progress of a 30-day fast. The main reason behind the fast through his posts I learned was that to learn self-deprivation and to learn to live without certain basic needs and to be able to survive when there's nothing. But why? Why fasting? You have so much. Why would you do this to yourself?
It's a very nice question and nicely put also. You have so much. Okay, I need to rewind a little bit. For whatever reason, when I was around 15 years old, I had the idea that I must live for 125 years.
Wow.
Around when I was 15 or 16, my grandmother died, and my grandmother died perfectly healthy, as in she didn't suffer a disease or anything like that. She died a good death.
Okay.
But she was 104 years old when she died.
Oh my
And
God.
I was quite impressed, because the day she died, it looked like this. She woke up and went to the kitchen, made herself some coffee, drank it, and went to take a nap, didn't get up.
Oh God.
I would pay for such a death, that's a good death. So I was quite impressed. She led a very fruitful life and she died without suffering. And the number was very good. So I was like, okay, she didn't even try to live for so long and made it till 104. If I try with science and logic and reasoning on my side, maybe I can better. So 120 it is. It was just a randomly selected number. From since I was 15, I've been trying one form of science, one form of art or the other. Whichever gives result, I'll keep it. Whichever doesn't, I've experienced it, so throw it out the window. So with that came the whole yoga element in a serious way. With that came going to the gym, exercise in various ways, and with that came experiments with diet and lifestyle changes and all that. Not all my experiments have been successful, but some of them have been, and I've kept them with me. So one of them biggest successes in all of these experiments has been fasting. And fasting is not some new age woozy hippie thing that is going on. It's a highly scientifically backed practice. And something that humans have been doing voluntarily or involuntarily since time immemorial. I'm not talking about some recent history or Egyptian times or the Vedic times. I'm talking about crazy ancient where when we were even unicellular organisms.
God.
Like that ancient, right? So from since then, some kind of fasting or the other has happened because food has never been this abundant. Think about it. I can walk 10 steps to my refrigerator right now and get food. But just 10,000 years ago, one had to hunt or gather or climb a tree to get food. And it took a lot of effort, and people used to be more or less hungry all the time. So the abundance of food has brought in security and safety and feeling of comfort, but it's always a double-edged sword. Our body was never designed for abundance. Our body is designed to thrive in times of fasting and have small times of feasting, and again have cycles of fasting, cycles of feasting. Our body was designed under the circumstances that existed for the past 4 or 5 million years. Compared to that, the past 100 or 200 years of industrial revolution and this newfound crazy wealth that we all have, compared to that big number, this is a very small number. And like any organism, we are getting attached to comfort. This comfort is killing us. If you've observed off late, nobody is dying of starvation anymore. Nobody is dying of deprivation anymore. Not that I'm saying one has to die of deprivation. I'm saying the new diseases are diseases of affluence. For example, if you take diabetes, right, or obesity, right, it's a disease of abundance, not of scarcity. Having a lot is where the disease comes from. Too much rest, too much sitting, it's all a too much related disease. Too much time indoors. What fasting does from a scientific biological standpoint is it optimizes our body each time we fast. Each time we fast, we are sending a message that, hey body, the food situation is very scarce right now. What are you going to do with your body? Are you going to burn away everything that you have, or are you going to do a rationing system? The obvious thing is body wants to survive, right? That's the first instinct that every organism has. Survival is the first instinct. When survival is questioned, body answers by optimization. Take an example of your house. The government says in the newspaper that for the next 5 days there won't be any water. What would you do? Would you take a shower twice a day, or would you optimize your usage function? So you are changing behaviors inside, micro behaviors inside your own house, which will make a resource last longer. Exactly what a body does, it makes the body last longer under fasting conditions. How does it do that? A lot of science involved, but in a short answer, we end up getting lesser number of diseases. We kill faulty cells and put them in the furnace, melt them, and use them as raw material for new cells. From a mental side of things, as you mentioned, it brings in a lot of self-control, willpower, because that's the first instinct of ours, right? The natural thing to do is to eat and survive.
Correct,
And if you override your most primal instinct, which is to eat and survive, and if you're successful overriding it, then you gain a lot of willpower and a lot of discipline. And that discipline and willpower can be used in other areas of life.
What do you think is the biggest learning you have from working at camps?
The biggest learning that I have is share the most important bits to kids in a way that they would understand, appreciate, and follow. Sure, I have a lot that I can pick up from people of your generation. So it's a two-way communication. At the same time, having lived for a few years longer than you folks on this planet, it is a great responsibility that I share with you folks the best of what I've learned so that you don't waste time, experimenting and doing the wrong stuff. You experiment and do other wrong stuff which I haven't done and get the best again. And when you come into my shoes, it's your job.
Yeah.
It's your job on teaching the kids who were born in 2010 and 2015. Because the world is very complicated for humans.
Yeah.
For other organisms, it's still in the state of survive and reproduce. That's it, right? Go with your impulse and you will stay alive. An ant doesn't have to go through 18 years of school and still not know much. But humans have to. Humans have to go through 18 years of school. I remember myself, 18 years, and then I still didn't know much. So 4 or 5 years more of world experience, and then I thought, okay, now I'm kind of figuring out the world. So that's a very long time of, say, a gestation period for the brain. Don't be stuck up on, it's not my problem if these kids are damning themselves. No, it is my problem. I'm going to live on this planet for the next 96 years. Yeah.
96 years.
Oh, yeah, it's 96 because I'm 31. Oh, wait, is it 96? Hold on.
94.
Yeah.
Moving back to what you said initially, you said that each of us have a base character. I mean, how much do you think is of that base character comes with where we're from, and how much do you think is it from what we are born with or what genetically?
There was a time, Veer, when I was a complete free thinker. I used to think that there is nothing that is fixed. You can change everything that you get and you can transform yourself entirely. I'm not so sure that that kind of thinking is right, at least from my own personal perspective. Somebody else may come along and they may prove that no, you can indeed transform everything in your life. If that is the case, I'll be very happy. But at the moment, based on whatever has happened in my life, I think where we come from, how we have grown up, and certain part of genetics too, they all come into the picture of creating a base character, as we spoke of earlier. I think that remains more or less constant with a little bit of flexibility, but it's more of our foundation. I relate it to a tree, A tree can end up growing new branches to explore new territories, but its soil is going to be the same one that it has put its root inside.
Correct, yeah.
It may not be the best analogy out there, but I relate it to that. I think every song that we've heard to when we were children and associated to that in a very deep way, every cartoon we've seen and every role model who failed us, each one of them have influenced our personality as adults or as older people, and they will remain for a very, very long time. It's very hard to just change neurons in a biological way, entirely rebuild ourselves from ground up. For example, phobias, right?
Yeah.
Phobias are hardwired. It's very hard to remove phobias. One may learn to deal with them in an effective, rational, reasonable manner, but that wiring is still there. Even allergies, for example, some people consume it and their body reacts in a very strong way. Those are all hardwired behaviors, and it's very, very hard to get out of that. Do I know for certain that it's permanent? No, I do not. But I think it is. Some part of us is always permanent.
Yeah.
I mean, I may be completely wrong, Veer, but I think this is the case for that question. And it's what makes us unique. It's what makes our experiences unique. We both can watch the same movie, but relate to different parts. And that's all because of who we are from since when we are little kids.
When at camp, you said that you love to learn a lot from the children there.
Yeah.
What is it that you like to pick up the most from them? Is it the different way that they look at life now since so much is changing around us, or just how different and amazing some of the children over there can be?
One part of it is what is useful in my own life? What can I learn from these kids who have learned something that I didn't when I was a child, and try to apply it now and hopefully take it to the future. So what I have resorted to is the new forms of communication. Every generation has its own language that they create, own slang that they create, own style of speaking that they create. The more I learn how a certain generation, yours for example, speaks and communicates with each other, the more I can influence that generation in an effective way.
Yeah.
And if that is truly my objective, that hey, let me pass some important stuff to these kids, I need to learn their language first. So one of them is definitely language, your slang, your the fact that some kids are using the word scam as the new as the new word for everything. That's a scam. This is a scam. Or just being up to date with memes and all of that. I love memes. I can be a part of the meme generation. That kind of stuff. At the same time, there's also one more thing which I'm not actively looking for to imbibe in my own life, but I still would like to observe and enjoy it as an experience itself. And that thing is being competent. When I see kids who are competent or came in and became competent in whatever, either dealing with other people or dealing with their own issues, they've become more competent, or in a sport, they have become competent. Whatever it is, they have improved and sharpened their skill. When I see this, it gives me great pleasure because it gives me great hope that, okay, I'm in this sphere of kids who are showing signs of being ready for the future, being ready to accept a variety of roles, to adapt to the varying needs. That's something that I don't actively look to put in my own life. I mean, it would be nice if I could, but I also just enjoy observing. So when I saw you taking complete initiative and dealing with people who were not so interested in an expedition, but they were enrolled in it anyway, and you dealt with them in a nice, you didn't shout on them, you didn't become a general on their head. You just handled it in a very subtle way and inspired them to get off their butts and go out there and work. That is being competent, right?
Yeah.
That is actually showing nice skills for a better future. And if that is happening around me, it's a great reason to enjoy that behavior. I enjoy it a lot.
So you just enjoy observing and learning. That's
I do learn whatever I can, but when I see good things happen, superb. Yeah.
Alright, I think on that note, we come to the end of this episode, and I just want to say thank you, Krishna, for doing this. I mean, it's really very, very happy. So, thank you very much.
Much gratitude, Veer. Thank you very much. Good luck to you and all your viewers. Fantastic podcast, and you are one of those things that I look and enjoy and have hope towards the future that you will make it a better place. You are one of those people.
Wow, my God. Thank you. Yeah, so until the next one, goodbye.